All right, I see by the clock on the wall, it is 6 o'clock. I'd like to call to order the December 2 regular meeting of the Mound Planning Commission. Roll call, please.
Planning Commission member, City Council Liaison Kathy McEnany.
Aye.
Planning Commission member Sherry Wallace.
Aye.
Planning Commission member Nick Rosner.
Here.
Vice Chair of the Planning Commission Jason Baker.
Here.
Planning Commission member Samantha Wacker.
Here.
Planning Commission member Kristen Young. Here. Planning Commission Chair David Good.
Present. You should have before you the agenda for this meeting as emailed by Sarah. We also have an amendment to the agenda, which should be before you. This is an email and a graphic from David and Jean Fashion.
Motion to approve the agenda as distributed, plus the amendment from David and Jean Fashion as distributed.
Second.
We have a motion and a second discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. We do not have the November 18 special rescheduled meeting minutes. Staff recommends we table action and we'll address the minutes at the January 6th meeting. Staff was extremely busy and needs a little more time to finish up proofing the minutes. Chair would entertain a motion to table action on the November 18, 2025 special rescheduled minutes to the January 6th meeting.
Motion to table the November 18th meeting minutes to the next regularly scheduled meeting.
Second.
We have a motion and a second discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Moving on, Board of Adjustment and Appeals, Planning Case 25-12. Ms. Rita.
Good evening. I'm going to just do the lights. You good with that?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. All right, good evening. I'm Rita Trapp, City Planning Consultant. Thanks for the opportunity this evening to present the request from the applicant for a comprehensive plan amendment, major subdivision rezoning, and conditional use permit. It is for a development that is called North Point at Halstead Bay. Just a little bit of housekeeping, particularly for folks that are in the audience that may not have attended a planning commission meeting before. This is our typical review process. The chair is in charge and he will actually direct how we move through this, but just for an example, we wanted to share what our typical process would be. I will start with a presentation of the requests. Planning commissioners then will ask clarifying questions, have an opportunity to seek any answers that they need. Typically, the applicant may present at that time and the planning commission has an opportunity to ask clarifying questions of the applicant. Then there is this public hearing. Tonight specifically, there's a public hearing for the comprehensive plan amendment and the major subdivision preliminary plat. Public hearing for the rezoning and conditional use permit are held at the City Council, but we can talk about any of the elements that I am presenting this evening. At some point, the public hearing would be closed. The Planning Commission would discuss the request and take some action this evening. So I'll be walking through a lot of these elements, but we do think it's helpful for those that may not attend a Planning Commission meeting on a regular basis to understand kind of what our operation will be this evening. Also, it's important to understand the role of the Planning Commission. They are advisors to the City Council. The actual decision will be made by the City Council at a meeting that has not yet been set. The goal of the Planning Commission is to hold the public hearings that we need to solicit input, to start to understand the impacts of this project, and then to evaluate the land use and subdivision requests based on the direction established in the comprehensive plan, the requirements set forth in city code, as well as the standards set by Minnesota state statute. Planning Commission is much more of a technical advisory body that really looks at how the code, the decisions that have already been made by the city, and provides feedback on those. So I just wanted to give those overviews before we dip into this project.
Anybody have any questions about that? Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chair Good. So an overview to this project, the applicant is proposing within Mound a 9-unit condominium building a 4-unit townhome building, and then a single-unit lot in this project. There's also an amenity building that I'll talk a little bit more about. This is actually part of a larger development project that extends into Minnetrista. So Minnetrista has an additional 45 units in that part of the city, which includes 3 condominium buildings and then 15 single-family homes. The applicant has received preliminary plat and land use approvals with conditions in Minnetrista. So they are past the preliminary plat stage, they have not gotten to the final plat stage. So because of the way that state statute works, each city needs to be looking at these things independently, but also conscious of the other. And so this is the point where they are ready to have the city of Mound consider the portion of the project that is in our jurisdictional boundary. For reference, this is the location of the project. It's located on the south side of Bartlett Boulevard. It has lakeshore frontage on Halstead Bay. There are currently 4 properties, which you can see in blue, circled in red. Those will be replatted into 8 lots. And when I get to the preliminary plat section, I'll show you how the new lots will be configured. So again, to summarize, it's a lot of different actions this evening, so I just wanted to summarize them briefly. There is a comprehensive plan amendment. I will walk into a lot of detail about these at each one of these process. So that's to re-guide a portion of it to low density and a portion to medium density, and we'll look at the maps to show and understand where those will be. There's a rezoning application to rezone the portion of the property that's R1 to R3 shoreline planning and development. But I do want to note that technically the existing R3 PDA was for a different project, so kind of this is going to replace the one that was there. So we're kind of rezoning the whole parcel to make it make sense for the project that is under consideration this evening. We do have a major subdivision preliminary plat, which will replat again into 8 lots. And then there is a conditional use permit. And there's 2 reasons for the conditional use permit. One, in Mound, any plan unit development requires a conditional use permit. That's how we process plan unit developments. Almost all of our residential projects of this scale and magnitude are plan unit development. All of our mixed-use projects are plan unit development. All of our big projects like this have all been plan unit development. So the fact that it is normal and customary for how the city of Mound has processed and continues to process these types of developments. In addition, the city code is set up that in the R3 zoning district, townhouses and multifamilies require a conditional use permit. So we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to that section. The way I have it divided up this evening is a little bit more regimented than normal. I'm going to try and have in-between slides that give me a chance to pause and also make sure that we kind of get through each section because there's a lot of different pieces that we need to consider. So I will start with existing conditions. As I noted in the location map, there are 4 parcels involved. Some of the parcels are vacant and some of them have a single-family home on the property. The property 6639 Bartlett Boulevard, which is on the far western side of this development, had been previously contemplated for some type of development. This is something the city has seen previously. This project actually adds a couple of more parcels than we had had previously. So this project is bigger. I know a few of you have been around since the first time that we had this project. This project is bigger in size than we had seen previously because we've added a few more parcels. You can best see that by looking at the comprehensive plan and what the existing guidance is. You can see in orange, that is guided for medium density residential. That was the nature of the original project that we saw for this parcel. This applicant has added on the 3 additional properties in yellow, which are all currently guided low density residential. You can see that the density ranges for those are 1 to 6 units per acre for a low density project and 7 to 12 units per acre for a medium density project. I will walk in the comprehensive plan section how we're going to make the change. Right now I'm on just an existing condition, so we're just at where we are today. The zoning, currently it is R3 PDA in where the original project was going to be, and again that reflects the fact that we had moved through all of the approvals for a project a number of years ago. And then there is the R1, which is the new lots that are added to this development. Obviously, because this is on the lake, this is all within the shoreline overlay district. So that's kind of the background existing conditions. I will move into the comprehensive plan amendment. The comprehensive plan amendment is to re-guide just a portion of the property. You can see the 1 and the 2 on the map. What we are trying to do with the re-guiding is we're trying to align the way that the guidance would be to what this project is. So where the condominium buildings are, we want all of that area guided for medium-density residential, and where the townhouse and the single-family and the amenity building are, we want those guided for low-density residential. This is required just to kind of get everything in the right spot based on how we describe those two different types of land uses. So after the proposed amendment, there'll be 1.25 acres of medium-density residential and 2.04 acres of low-density residential. The proposed densities are in line with the proposed densities that are allowed within each of those districts. And as you can see, these are at the lower end of the densities that are allowed, meaning medium density is allowed to have 7 to 12 units an acre. This project is at 7.2 units per acre, so just above the minimum density for a medium density project. And even the low density residential is at 2.45 units per acre, which is just in the 1 to 6 units per acre. One thing that we will be talking about is the juxtaposition of the Metropolitan Council density requirements and the DNR density requirements, and those don't really align well together. So here we're just barely meeting the density, we're kind of getting into the density requirements. In the DNR, we're just barely getting into their density, and they kind of are floating together. So those are some things to be aware of. One element which is new, because we haven't seen a lot of infill projects like this, where we actually are dedicating a portion of a county road. We typically in Mound don't have this happen very often. I don't remember the last time I've had to dedicate county road as part of a project. We did not consider that as part of the density calculations because the right-of-way from the land will already be dedicated to the county. So from our perspective, we hit our density numbers. Metropolitan Council currently has a policy that says that right-of-way amount, which is not very much, has to be added in. And so that drops our density under 7 units an acre, which means it isn't medium density according to the Metropolitan Council. Our sector rep informed us that they are currently in a process of updating their policy, recognizing that infill developments like this have these challenges, and we are doing what the intent is. And so the recommendation just was, if we were to move forward with this project, that we time the submittal to the Metropolitan Council after they've already had this policy discussion and are ready to contemplate it in the manner that makes sense, or what we're already thinking. So I can provide more information. It's really a technical element as opposed to too much of a policy thing, but we also want everybody to be aware of that. All right, rezoning. This one's quick. The request is to rezone all of the parcels to R3 PUD. It allows for more land uses and housing types. Single family is actually allowed in the R3 district, so it is not a problem that we have everything zoned the same way. It'll be nice to have the whole project in the same zoning district. One note is that the single family homes will need to follow the standards of the R2 district, not the R1 or the R1A. So it's just something that's important to note when that property owner goes to build their house, they will be held to the setback standards that are the R2 standards. Right now, that is contemplated of being built separately, not as part of the rest of the development. One of the property owners that is participating in this project is retaining that piece of property to build a house on. And so we just want them to be aware that they are required to meet those standards. So setbacks, impervious surface, all of those elements will need to be met. Preliminary plat. The whole site is 3.29 acres. They are proposing to replat 4 parcels to create 8 lots. You can see the breakdown on the table. One of the lots will be for the condominium, one will be for the single family home, one for the amenity building. And then it is contemplated that each of the townhomes would be sold individually. So each townhome unit is on its own lot. And then there is one lot that encompasses the land around the townhouse building. So that's how we get to 8 lots. And then onto the conditional use permit. We'll spend a lot of time here because this really is where we encompass all of the site and design standards that we need to walk through. Again, as I stated at the beginning, conditional use permit is the tool that the city uses for any planned unit development in the city. It's required for a shoreline plan unit development. We included in your packet just kind of a reminder or a refresher for those that have been around, new information for those that haven't been involved in these kind of projects on why the city might do PUDs, especially in this case where we're talking a residential. So the intention is to allow some flexibility to recognize unique challenges of a site and provide flexibility to have a mix of housing types or achieve some design requirements, and so that's something that's we included in your packet just for information. It also is required to allow townhouses and multifamily, and this is really where we're going to establish all of the dimensional and design standards. PUDs and Mound are fairly flexible. Pretty much everything can be accommodated through the use of the PUD. It just determines how much flexibility the city is interested in granting in terms of all those elements. And we tried in the packet, and I'll try today, to just mention where flexibility is being granted through the PUD, because this is one of those cases where the city needs to be comfortable with what's being proposed, because you're really identifying on a case-by-case basis what things are appropriate for this particular development. So, uses, principal uses. Permitted uses in the PUD should generally be consistent with permitted or conditional uses of the underlying district. The R3 is the district, as we noted, and all of the uses, the condo, the townhouse, and the single-family home are considered to be uses that would be allowed. Obviously, I had a note before about conditional versus permitted. The accessory building is a little bit interesting. Our code doesn't exactly talk about an amenity building such as being proposed. There are a couple of examples, at least one example, in the city of Mound where this exists, so it's not like it doesn't exist. We just haven't seen exactly this use. It's really an accessory building, but it's serving the entire project, not just an individual house, and it is on its own lot, which we typically don't see. And it can be allowed through the PUD. We just want to note that it's a little bit different. It has an interior kitchen, seating area, dining areas, restroom. You can see the example of the floor plan. It would be exclusively for the use of those people who are living in the development. It's not meant to be a public facility. It's meant just for the people that are in the North Point at Halsted Bay development. Exterior-wise, there are 2 patios, one on the west and one on the lake shore. In terms of a long-term use, as I said, it's intended for all residents within development. The HOA agreement, which we haven't seen a draft of, but these are elements that we anticipate from the applicant would be included. We can certainly talk about other types of things that would need to be included in order to meet city requirements, but the HOA would limit the hours of use from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. On a shorter term basis, the applicant is requesting approval to use the building as a sales office until the project is completed, and you can see the hours would be 8 to 6. Again, this isn't something that we've had as part of a project for a number of years. I have not been involved in a project like this. I don't think Sarah has either. So the ones that do exist predate our experience in the community, which is a long time. So we don't have a precedent that we can give you, but it's something to be aware of, that through this, we would be approving the use of this, and if that's something that is of concern, we should have more conversation about it. Relative to lot sizes and yards, so now we're kind of working towards setback requirements. They are proposing for the 9-unit condo building reduced yard areas for all yards. You can see in the table, the minimum lot size is fine, the minimum lot width is fine. We've highlighted the front yard, side yard, and rear yard. The biggest reason that this occurs is because of the requirement that it's related to the height of the building. So we have not seen in many of our projects setbacks that are related to something about the building design, but in the R3 district, you have 2 different potential standards. In this case, what applies is 1.5 times the building height for the front yard, the height of the building for the side yard, and the rear yard, and you can see what they're actually proposing. So I just wanted to call that out because that is different than what we typically see or talk about. The PUD is intended to allow for flexibility, and most of these standards are related, front and rear in particular, are related to internal to the development as opposed to have external impact to surrounding properties. Obviously, the side yard does a little bit. And then distance between multiple dwelling unit structures. There's 76 proposed between the condo building and the townhouse, and 74 to the next condo building in the project. And then the 4-unit building, this one is meeting all of the requirements for the R3, so I won't spend too much time on that because I have a lot of slides, a lot of topics. So you can always come back if you wanted to talk more about that. And then the single-family home, as I referenced, we basically have kind of a possible footprint, but there really aren't measurements provided. We can see where the setbacks would be applied, but this will need to meet R2 riparian lot setbacks. at the time that the building permit is pulled, and there's been no request for anything different variance-wise. So we just assume that it'll work at the time that they propose it. Then the amenity building, the city will need to determine the appropriate setbacks and flexibility. Again, this isn't something that we have specific standards for. Technically, overall in the whole city, accessory buildings typically should not exceed 1,200 square feet with a maximum of 3,000 square feet or 15% of lot size. The building is proposed to be just under 1,700 square feet. Again, just as a reminder, an accessory building typically needs to be on a lot with a principal structure, so this is different. And so this is a different situation that we need to think about and contemplate. It is located between two single-family home lots, so that is important to talk about as we think about screening and landscaping and parking and those elements. All right, I am going to move to the shoreland requirements. There's a few different topics with the actual shoreland rules. One is density. So density for shoreland is, for planned unit development, is based on tiering. The applicant, city staff reviews, needs to establish where 3 tiers are, and we need to evaluate whether the density proposed within those tiers meet appropriate requirements. So the goal, if you can imagine, overall, just stepping back, is to have more density the farthest you can away from the lake. So near the lake, we don't really want, we want 1 or 2 units. As we move back, we can have a few more units. As we move farther back, if you could, that's where ultimately, from a shoreline perspective, the best protection is to put most of the density farthest back. So based on the fact that this is Lake Minnetonka, the first tier is 267 feet, and tiers 2 and 3 are 200 feet. So you can see on the diagram, we drew where the lines were so you could see it. So tier 1 really extends kind of back to where Halsted Avenue is. So all of the land from Halsted to the lake is in tier 1. Tier 2 is really where kind of going up the hill, where the townhouse building is, and then tier 3 includes Bartlett Boulevard and the condo building. So the way that we calculate density is you take the area from that tier and you divide it by 10,000 square feet. So the idea is, the preference would be that we don't have more density than what a typical single-family lot is required to have in Mound. You can transfer density from tier to tier, so if you don't put as much density in a tier, those units that you would be allowed can be added to the tier that is farther up. I kind of tried to explain it, but hopefully the table makes a little bit of sense. The maximum units allowed in tier 1 would be a little more than 4 units. They're only really proposing the 1 unit. Then they have 3 units that they can transfer back up to the next tier where the townhouses are. And so that's how we figure out whether or not the density proposed meets requirements or doesn't meet requirements. There's also a bluff on the site. We have circled kind of where the bluff is located on the Mound side of the development. It's to the west of the townhouse building. As probably you know, this area was originally used as a manufactured home park. It's likely that the bluff was impacted at that time as they tried to situate the different homes and have a development there. Shoreline regulations technically say that you should have a 30-foot bluff setback for new development. Right now, we're only showing a 10-foot bluff setback at the northwest corner. PUD can allow for reduced setbacks. This is something that we talk about from time to time as we have development happen in Mound with certain areas that have bluffs. Also in the shoreline regulations are open space. The PUD requires 50% open space across the site. And then shoreline requires 70% of the shore impact zone, which is the first 25 feet, to be preserved. Right now, we don't have open space information provided. And the shore impact zone, we have a little bit of question and issue. It looks like it's preserved, but we also have the patios to deal with. And so those are things to be aware of. Unit size, the City of Mound still retains having minimum sizes for different units, and that is something that is being provided for adequately from the project. The building height R3 standards are 3 stories or 35 feet for the condominium building, 35 feet or 2.5 stories for the townhouse buildings. As you can see in the table, what is being proposed is a 50-foot building for the 9-unit condominium building, 29 feet the townhouse building, and 17 for the amenity building. So if the city can use the planned unit development to allow that height to be greater than is typical for an R3 project. There is minimum required construction elevation, so the lowest floor, meaning garages, any livable areas. And in this project, because of where it's located, that isn't a concern. Even the amenity building located near the lake is well above the minimum construction elevation of 933. All right, access. This project is kind of split in half. On the northern, off of Bartlett Boulevard, is where the access is provided to the condominium building and to the townhouse building. I'm gonna just grab, oh, here.
Yellow.
Yep. So that one's not working. There it is. This one's dead.
Yellow.
I just wanted to point out, Bartlett Boulevard, there is gonna be a driveway connection that goes through Minnetrista, and then there's the driveway that goes to this townhouse building. And then on the south side, the access to the amenity and to the single-family home is coming across Halsted Avenue. So there's kind of two different ways for access. The access has been reviewed by Hennepin County, and they're okay keeping it. There are some notes about making sure we have turn lanes, safety features, and the fire chief has reviewed, and they have elements that will help do fire protection as well. So kind of the bluffs are the reason why we don't have any more access from north to south through the site. Parking wise, the condominium does include a below grade parking deck, and the garage entrance is coming off the side of the building, and then there are 7 spaces in front of the condominium building. In the townhouse buildings, each unit has a private 2-car garage and then a driveway. The driveway is 18 by 20 feet, so is sufficient to hold a vehicle. And then the code requirements are 2 spaces per unit. And then on the amenity building, there are 9 spaces provided for the amenity building to make sure that folks have the ability to park near that building. There are trails and stairways connecting the buildings. It is a wood chip trail that is going down the bluff to provide access from these buildings. There is a sidewalk as well. So that is providing access down into the lake, and I think staff mentioned just the question of having more discussion about a wood chip trail and wooden stairs and whether long-term just maintenance of that is realistic or not. But it also ties into impervious surface. So as you all know from all of our work together, there's a lot of trade-offs that have to come together, and we have to provide some guidance on what are the most important elements. But staff has a little bit of concern given the fact of where the wood chip trail is, that it is on a slope, whether or not that's really sustainable, and would be safety issues, and whether you'd have to replace the wood chips all the time to keep it going. So things to talk about. Trash and recycling will be stored inside all of the residential buildings, and then there is an enclosure on the northeast side of the amenity building. The landscaping plan, they're proposing to save about 47% of the trees, and then there'll be planting of 19 new trees on the site. The plan meets generally the requirements for quantity and species. We do have a landscape architect that reviews these, and she's been asking for she asked for some additional information. As you are well aware, usually we just have that ultimately that she approves the plan and make sure that the species that are picked and where they're located makes sense from a maintenance perspective, survivability, that we're protecting tree roots. So she's taken a preliminary look at it, but definitely has some clarifying questions to just answer. Screening has been something that staff has been concerned about, particularly related to the amenity building, just because it is located immediately adjacent to an existing single-family home as well as the proposed new single-family home. And so making sure that it is screened as best we can, the parking lot is screened, the building is screened. And so right now there is some landscaping proposed, but more discussion may be beneficial related to screening, especially given where the patios are. I do want to note there are slopes to deal with as well, and so that does make some of the choices. You can see some of the slopes in terms of how the building got laid out, and those are maybe conversations that are helpful with the applicant. Utilities, public water is available along Bartlett Boulevard and Halsted Avenue. Sewer is available on Halsted Avenue on the Minnetrista side. These plans have been reviewed by the city engineer, as we know, we've talked about. They always review and have a lot of comments. From a technical perspective, they're comfortable. There are things that would need to be addressed, but they're not concerned specifically about the ability to serve the project as proposed. And then stormwater, Minnehaha Creek Watershed District is the permitting authority. As we've experienced in the past, they like to have the city do its work and have some measure of that this project is something that the city is comfortable with before they go through their permitting process. There are conversations that are back and forth, and I'll talk a little bit about what we've heard so far from Minnehaha Creek. One element is that with the shoreline PUD tiering, again, going back to that tiering discussion, is used to determine requirements related to impervious surface. The maximum allowed is no more than 30% in Tier 1 and no more than 30% overall. Overall, right now, the proposal is at 34%, and Tier 1 is just under that 30% measure. So that's always a balancing act between impervious surface requirements as well as what Minnehaha Creek Watershed District thinks are acceptable in terms of stormwater management. But it is something that we can use the PUD for, or we can have more conversation about how we might address it. Obviously, we have some challenges with this site, in fact, that we have to have the driveway, we have to have extra fire access and turnaround for the townhouse building because of the way that the site is arranged in the bluffs. So all of those things together, we're trying to balance all of those different elements for our project. And then there's a few elements, snow storage, lighting, signage, that we haven't had a lot of discussion yet with the applicant, particularly on the lighting and the signage. If there isn't any request at this stage, they would just need to meet what the code requirements are, and that's part of the PUD. Snow storage is a discussion we can have, given the way that they have designed the site. There are areas that probably can accommodate, but we haven't specifically had that identified yet. All right. Into the review comments section. The plans have been shared with our typical routing of staff, consultant, agency, and utilities. We have routed them different times with updated plans. As we noted in our staff report, the last set of plans that we received was on the 25th. So we have the comments that we have, but some of the comments that we will walk through today may have been addressed in the latest set of plans. And so that's one of the reasons why staff wants to start the conversation, but doesn't think we can finish all the conversations this evening. Because some of these review comments may have already been addressed in the latest set of plans, and some may not have, and so we need to kind of work through those. But generally, I will walk through the comments. The DNR area hydrologist, just as a reminder, the DNR is a commenting authority. They are not an approval authority. They can provide comments and feedback and things that they hope the city will take into account as we review the applications. They noted, again, similar to staff, that the open space is still an open question. There also is concern about how we're going to protect the open space. Typically, we see that as a conversation that comes as part of the final plat process when we're actually looking at development agreements and HOA agreements and easements and things of that nature. So it's good to note, but staff, that's a future element if we move forward with this project. There is concern from the DNR about the lakeshore side deck encroaching in the ordinary high water level lakeshore setback, which is supposed to be 50 feet. They're in that number, and so that's something that we should be having a conversation about, whether that is something that we are comfortable with or not. Minnehaha Creek Watershed District, they have reviewed the stormwater plan, and they are in communication with the applicant. There is more to be done in this area, and as is typical with our process, we anticipate more conversation. They are talking about having impervious surfaces being routed to the right place. And this is something where they have been aware because, again, this project has also been happening with Minnetrista, and so they're having conversations with that side as well. They have not raised anything more substantial of concern at this point. Metropolitan Environmental Services doesn't have any facilities, so that's not of concern. Hennepin County provided comments kind of in 3 areas, one being right-of-way and roadways, one being stormwater and utility, and one being the landscape plan. Generally, they, again, wanted the Bartlett Boulevard right-of-way. They do allow the access, but noted the need for turn lanes. And then there's revisions requested related, technical revisions related to actual pavement improvements. There are also technical requirements related to stormwater and utilities. Those again are being reviewed by them, our city engineer, and will be working through all of those elements. Most of these are fairly, things that we're aware of, for example, no ponding allowed in the county right-of-way, things that are customary to projects. And then they made a couple of notes related to the landscape plan, which our landscape architect will take into consideration. The city engineer provided 2 rounds of comments, and they covered a lot of different topics. In response to, from the first round to the second round, the city engineer felt they did address a number of the comments. Obviously, we'll still need to work through those, and we will need to kind of pare down the list to what is still remaining from his list of requirements. After the first round of comments, the second round said, generally, we're moving in the right direction. We don't have major concerns. We feel like these technical things can be addressed. As a staff, planning staff, we're always going back to the commenters, asking them, like, are any of these really significant that they're gonna change the whole scope of the plan? So far, those have not been identified as changing the scope of the plan. They're technical things that they feel like they can address. Mound Fire, the initial review identified a number of concerns related to the configuration of the access roads, connections, hydrant locations. The applicant did meet with both Mound and St. Bonnie fire chiefs to address or talk about those concerns. They have updated those concerns, kind of similar to what I said with the city engineer. Planning staff went to them and said, are any of these major enough that, you know, we should be concerned, that we shouldn't be moving forward with planning committee consideration? And they said, no, we can still address these technically. So that's where we are from a technical perspective. There are some technical issues with the plat that need to be addressed. They're from the surveyor, things that are common, especially when you have a common interest community that need to be addressed. And then Lake Minnetonka Conservation District, there is discussion happening about a dock and what that dock will be, what it will consist of, what will be allowed. So the information that we have from LMCD, because they are the ones that will oversee that, it's not the city of Mound, but it's them. They said that there'll be 1 watercraft allowed per 50 feet of shoreline, or 4 watercrafts if they're all owned and registered to the property owners. So information about docks is still ongoing, but LMCD is at the table and having conversations so that the applicant is aware of the limitations relative to docks, particularly related to rental, watercraft, and their goal is to not have too many boats being created from this project, so they're involved with that. Public comment, we mailed all of the notices to properties within 350 feet. It was posted on the city bulletin board, it was published in the Laker, the information's been on the city website. As of today, we've only received the 1 comment which you amended into your agenda. It is from a neighbor who lives in the area. Right now I have the 7 things. These 7 are the titles of each of their comment sections, so you have that in front of you, the types of things that they're concerned about. And they are, my understanding is a Minnetrista resident who is concerned about the project, and so this is the things that they have provided. I won't comment anymore since you do have it in front of you and you could take a look at that in more detail rather than me summarizing their words. So, Planning Commission action this evening. As we stated in the report, this is a big project. It's a complicated project, especially the part where it goes across 2 cities and we have access coming from 2 jurisdictions. We have a lot of moving parts. We are asking this evening that you hold the public hearing, completely open and close it, for the comprehensive plan amendment and major subdivision preliminary plat. We'd love you to discuss it, identify what your issues are, your concerns, your questions, and then table it to the January 6th meeting. We feel like that will be better for all of us in terms of being able to answer your questions, provide information. I couldn't figure out how I was going to give you a list of comments since things are in flux with all of those commenting agencies. That was one of my challenges, and I finally said I don't think we'll be very accurate and it'll feel overwhelming. So we want to take the time to figure out what other information you need, what things do you have concerned about, provide the applicant an ability to answer them, and also for us to work with the technical folks to say what is really needs to be changed, what are the concerns that they have, because we have been getting multiple iterations and improvements, which is great, but it does make it challenging for us at times. Before I end, public hearing structure, generally, if it's okay, Mr. Good, just to kind of work through that, generally we ask each person to introduce themselves, name and address. Your comments should be directed to the Planning Commission, not to the applicant. The Planning Commission is the one holding the public hearing. They're the ones that are interested in your input, your questions. Mr. Good, Chair Good will take care of kind of routing how they will be walking through it. Only one person can speak at a time. Generally, be respectful of 3 minutes for your first round of comments. We just want to focus on new information, and Mr. Good will kind of walk us through that, and he will decide whether or not staff answers or the applicant answers, and when we all do that. It may be that we collect a number of comments at a time before we start answering them. Depends on the complexity of the comments. So just as a heads up, because I know sometimes people haven't been at a meeting before. With that, we are at part of the meeting where I get to try and answer questions that you may have had from my first slide. So hopefully you remember what those might be. But I appreciate the attention and happy to clarify, answer questions, provide more information.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Good.
Now that we've had an opportunity to drink from the fire hose, does anyone have any questions or comments for Rita?
Rita, are we looking at a stormwater pond?
Not on our side. There is stormwater ponding on the Minnetrista side.
Oh, okay. My question would be, how many residents are actually, is it proposed would be using that multi-purpose building, the amenities building?
How many? Well, there's,
I mean, how many units
Yep.
in total?
yep, I'm going backwards. All right, so we have 9, 13, 14. They have 45, 60, 73? I was close. It's hard to do math on the fly.
76 units between,
There's 45 units, yeah.
Okay, so
Is that right?
76 units, and you said they're gonna have 7 parking spots down by
I
that
believe
building?
it's
9.
9.
9? Okay, so 9 parking spots, and it's up on a bluff. So
What's
how-
up on the bluff?
That a lot of the units are
The
up
condo
on,
units are up,
the
yes.
majority of the residents are up on the bluff, correct? That will be using it?
Well,
Of the 76?
no, I understand the question. It's just, it's the Minnetrista side and the Mound side. So the Mound side, the 9 residents, yes, the 9 and those are.
Right, right.
And then the Trista side is a little bit different because of the way that they have that. I mean, it is up a hill, I'm not.
Right,
saying
right,
it's
right. The reason I mention that is
Yeah.
because it may be a deterrent of people walking down the hill, and especially walking back up the hill if they've got their coolers and their lake toys and stuff. I think the applicant said or you said in your notes that it was proposed that most of them would walk to the building, and I would dispute that as
on the wood chips.
on the wood chips, or, you know, if you've got coolers and bringing them down to the lake, and thus, where do the people park if there's only 9 parking spots? And does that, I mean, that's a lot of units, 76, using that one building, which, you know, is next to a residential house. Is that a concern?
I think, I can't speak to that. That's something for you guys to all have a conversation about. I mean, I'm alerting you that that's the situation.
Right.
I think right now, I can't speak more. There's nothing clarifying I can
I don't know
give.
what you guys think,
But I think
mean,
right now, we're on to questions that you need to understand the project.
Okay.
And then afterwards, there'll be discussion where you guys can
Gotcha.
work through that. But
Okay.
if we can focus on what do you need to know, or what does the public need to know so they
Gotcha.
understand the project, which your question of the numbers is very on, like,
Right.
how many people
Right.
are we talking about?
I have a question. Did I read correctly that one of the buildings is going to be 50 feet height?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, didn't we amend our comprehensive plan or zoning that we were going to cap buildings at 35 feet?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, well, I have a really big issue with the 50 feet. That's why we redid that in our zoning and I guess when we amended our comprehensive plan, wasn't it?
No, it's in the zoning.
In the zoning.
Yeah, and that's why it states in that slide what the max height is
Yep,
Yeah,
yep,
for that reason.
yep.
right.
It's 3 stories or 35 feet. I believe that when we did the mixed use, that's where we made the change. I believe we did all mixed use, everything at 35 feet. We have no 50 feet left, right?
I don't think we did.
I don't believe so.
Okay. so-
Because that was the challenge.
Correct.
trying
That's
to
the
bring,
shoreline.
like,
That's
a
the
high
shoreline
density
number as well.
Feel.
Yes, nope, I totally agree. Did you see the Minnetrista ones?
I didn't.
Okay.
Maybe
May
it's a-
want to ask the applicant about the Minnetrista ones.
But on our side too, on the Mound side, they're proposing a 50-foot.
Yep,
Okay.
yes, ma'am.
And then I'm sure between all the agencies, they don't seem to have a problem with 76 units. Suddenly using a couple of exit ways onto 110. That's a lot of added traffic right there.
It is a county road and it's built to accommodate traffic, that's its point, so they do not, no questions and concerns have been raised.
Okay.
Other than, that's the reason they wanted to add turn lanes relative to the access in Mound. Make sure that there's a place for cars that are
stage.
turning to stop and not be in traffic. So from a road perspective, the road is designed to handle traffic, but they did have those turning movements to try and prevent conflicts and address that part of it.
Well, I just am imagining the one stop sign at 44 and 110, you know, where it's going to get pretty jammed up with 76 new units.
County roads, these kind of roads are designed for much more traffic than one development, but I understand why there's concerns about that it will change the traffic patterns a little bit until people get used to it.
Rita,
Yes,
is the
ma'am.
marina going to be part of this development?
I'm
Or is it
sorry?
Is the marina going to be part of this development?
Do you mean the docks?
Yeah, the docks.
The docks are part of the development. They would come off of the Mound perspective because that's the only place that there is lakeshore. The LMCD, that's why there's conversation going on about what actually can happen. And that's why their letter is important because it talks about how it has to operate and that there are limitations to the operation. So it's not going to be a dock for all of them. It's going to be a limited amount of docks that they would be allowed. And then there's going to be limits to how they can operate. And that's what that kind of element is about. But that's their, LMCD is the one that approves docks.
So it sounded to me as though there were going to be only 4 slips. Does that sound right?
It depends on how they authorize it.
So 4 boats total for the neighborhood?
Well, I think having more conversation with the applicant would be helpful because there's different ways. The way that the letter response was, you can have this or this. Which way the applicant chooses to go is not something I can comment on.
I had a couple questions.
I've been waiting.
Is it possible for us to get a copy of the Minnetrista side plat to look at, to see the whole thing overall before next
Plat
meeting?
is the same.
What do you mean by the plat? Because
Well,
the
the
drawings that you
Minnetrista side.
had included the Minnetrista side.
It did?
Yes.
With all the stormwater and stuff?
Everything.
Where was the water retention you were saying?
Did you see this?
Yeah, that's what I'm looking.
They have it right here.
I'm just going to open up.
Oh, okay.
You're going to
Right, that's it.
But my other question was the heights and the setbacks that are relations to heights? Do you know what Minnetrista allows? Okay. I'm assuming that they approved the 50-foot height? Do we know?
That's what we need to ask the applicant on what
Okay.
their approval height is. I would
Um,
suspect that you would keep the buildings the same.
Okay.
And also how they measure the building height.
The impervious measurements that you were talking about, where it was like just under 30% for the tiers and Is that excluding the single-family lot?
It's using the information that they gave us, which would be including the single-family lot, but that would mean that when that project got developed, we'd have to make sure there was an updated number and they were still staying underneath that 30%. Did you, so on here, like the stormwater basin,
Oh, I just couldn't read that, okay.
are there in there?
Okay. And then the last one I had was, you said the side deck was in the high water area.
No, if I said side, I apologize.
It was written up there
The-
side too.
The deck.
Yeah, I meant the one, this
The
one.
front deck,
Yeah, that's
Oh.
just the way that it got written,
okay,
this.
yeah. And in the picture, it looked like that was actually pavers, not a deck. I don't know if that was, can you
They're still
have,
subject to the 50, though.
can you have like a pavers in the 50?
A patio and a deck have the same lakeshore setback.
do?
Yeah,
Oh, okay,
yeah.
okay.
Do we have a plan for stormwater, like how much water is actually coming through that area? Because I believe there's more water than just what's,
The city engineer would have been reviewing and Minnehaha Creek, the stormwater plans.
okay.
But I can't comment on stormwater, other than to say, all the plans have been submitted to the appropriate folks. They haven't identified any issues related to it.
And is your question related to the stormwater pond we're looking at here?
Right, that these ponds
Yeah.
can handle
They're
the
engineering,
amount of
I guess.
runoff. Not only from the actual area, but,
Yep, I understand your
into it,
question, but
yeah.
that's beyond the purview of the conversation. We rely on our technical experts to review that and say, we're good, we have the information that we need to provide the information. I can't answer more questions about stormwater. Sorry. At the planning commission meeting, we don't have the ability to have the engineers here. At the council meeting, they'll be there and can answer technical details.
Sure,
At this meeting, we have to rely on the knowledge that all of those things got sent. The city engineer has reviewed them every time they've come in and provided whatever concerns that they have and addressed those.
gotcha.
More questions for Rita?
Just one, how significant are the changes between like the single-family lot if they have to suddenly go to this new zoning? I might be asking that question wrong. 'cause
That's okay.
I
Just try it
scratched
again.
bad notes.
No, that's okay.
But you were talking about earlier that the single-family lot would have to adhere to the new standards.
It's
the
not
R2
new, well, this is a totally
R2s.
new house. So it's more about making sure that the applicants are aware that when we go to review that building permit, it'll be using the R2 standards, which actually are lesser than the R1
Oh,
standards.
okay, that's
they
where I was
are.
going with that, thank you.
Yes.
And where exactly is that new house being built?
I don't know if it's easy, right here?
Oh, that doesn't make any sense to me at all.
Shore where the road is.
Yeah,
Is it one of the bottom three lots?
Here, I'm gonna move to a different diagram. Give me 1 second. Let's see. I don't know which diagram is the easiest for you.
The existing lots, maybe,
Yeah,
where it shows the existing lots.
yeah.
Well, and it's not exactly true, but generally, this is generally where it's gonna be, but this
Oh,
There's the
road.
road. Yeah.
The road's gonna extend and then there'll be a driveway. So the lot doesn't exactly configure the same, but generally this is. And this yellow right here, this is not part of the project. Just to make sure.
Okay.
'Cause
Those
it
are
sounded
the
like maybe you were
existing.
thinking they were.
That's what I thought the new, so
Yeah,
the,
those are that's already in existence. It is just showing in yellow because this is the edge of the city of Mound
Gotcha.
and our comp plan. So it shows, it might read like it's part of the project, but it's really where the highlights are.
The green. the-
Yep, right here.
and then will Halsted Lane, I know that was discussion earlier when they first came through. Is that going to be going all the way over to the new home that's going to be built crossing through that?
I am gonna try and get you a diagram to, actually, I have the civil. Let me go back to that. All right, hopefully you can look at this. If I zoomed in too much, let me know. So this is Halsted coming down from Bartlett. Are you following that?
Yeah.
Councilmember McEnany? And then it'll extend this way. And these are those 3 little lots you asked me about.
Yeah.
And then it's gonna have a hammerhead at this point, so there can be turnaround, and then there's a driveway.
Oh, got it, okay.
And then there's a driveway going to the amenity building.
Thank you.
Yes, no, thank you for the question.
More questions for Rita? Okay, hearing none, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Next, we'd like to hear from the applicant. Please state your names and your addresses.
Yep, Sheldon Berg with DJR Architecture, and we are at 333 Washington Avenue North in Minneapolis.
How about the gentleman behind you?
This is their civil, I think.
Good evening. My name is Wayne Stark with Stark Engineering. I'm a civil engineer on the project. And the address is 322nd Avenue North, Sauk Rapids.
Okay. All right, gentlemen.
Very good, thank you.
Proceed, please.
Thank you very much for your time tonight, Chair and members of the Commission. We appreciate that and your, and the work that we've done with staff, getting us to where we are today. I think from a overall, I think Rita did a really good job describing the project and, some of the inherent challenges with that property. What I'd like to do is just do a quick overview of some of our goals for the project, and also I can either respond to a couple of the anecdotal questions or wait for follow-up questions. So, big picture, we were looking to bring a kind of a new community to the area, and by adding some quality housing that also has a connection to the lake. Doing that, we're trying to balance both the natural setting that we have before us between the hill, the lake at the bottom of the hill, connections to the lake, as well as the trees and the bluffs and the natural kind of beauty that has, while also trying to provide some well-built and a variety of housing types for the community. To answer a couple questions about, particularly about the amenity buildings, since that seemed to come up a number of times. We've sized it, I think, fairly modestly. It's, it's 1,600 square feet. So that's the size of maybe a 1 to 2 bedroom house. It's not designed to have all the residents, and every summer day being down there at that time. It's probably a couple groups of 4, maybe 15 to 20 people between inside and outside. It would be like a comfortable, where you don't feel like you're on top of other people. So the size is, I think, right sized for the amount of the community that we have with the 76 units. And knowing people's schedules and how that varies, I think that we feel really comfortable about the size that we're providing, that it's roomy enough that you could have a little event there, a little birthday party, something like that, and yet we're not trying to house, the whole neighborhood, let's just say, necessarily at one time. And I think that relates then to the convenience parking that we have. We have 9 spaces there. A lot of people can walk to the area, and obviously we are providing some parking for those that either can't walk it or they prefer not to, or if they have some things they want to bring down, they can bring them down and have that convenience. So I think we, generally speaking, covered the dock area, that we'll have a single dock with probably potential for 4 boats at that point. And we haven't devised the exact determination on how and when it's used, but that's kind of we're undergoing that, since there is a select few. And let's see, Wayne, anything you want to add relative to engineering, stormwater.
Sure. So yeah, as far as the stormwater questions that have been asked, I can definitely address those. All of the stormwater treatment detention for the project will occur on the Minnetrista side with the runoff from the Mound properties piped to those basins. And then there is about 17 acres on the north side of County Road 110 that does drain, flow through the site. And so that's gonna be collected and run through the site, and then, but all of the on-site runoff, stormwater runoff will be directed to those. There's actually 4 stormwater basins on the Minnetrista side that will treat and detain that runoff to meet the city requirements as well as the Minnehaha Creek Watershed District requirements for this development.
One last item maybe I'll comment on, just in terms of, I understand that the building height for the condominium wasn't concerned. 2 things about that. One is, you know, in concert, let's just say with the tiering that we have around the lake, we have kept the densities, the lowest density closest to the lake, and then tiering up a little bit as we go. Our intent from the beginning was to keep the condominium buildings, which are 3-story, on that north side off of 110, because that's where we want the density to be. And also, they are up the hill, so they still have some nice long views to the lake, so so those upper level units can take advantage of that. And I would just say that the way that the building heights have been accepted in Minnetrista, Minnetrista and Mound do evaluate height a little differently. In this case, the height that we're talking about for the condominium on the Mound side, the 50 feet is probably not what's going to be experienced by most people. For instance, because there is a slope on the site, the upside or the north side of that building probably is in the 32, 34 feet in height, a 3-story. It is 3 stories on top of an underground garage. That's where all the parking, we have, I think, plus or over 2 spaces per unit available, plus the guest parking. And so as the site slopes down, then that does reveal some portion of that garage. I mean, we do have to get into it and things, and just based on the way that the city of Mound calculates the height, did exacerbate, or at least the description, or the actual number that we get to by using the criteria we have for the height, we do land at 50 feet, although for the majority of, you were walking around the building, you wouldn't really realize that it's a height like that.
So from 110, is it the building up on top?
The very top.
So
Yep.
from 110, is it going to look
Correct.
like a 30?
No, yeah, exactly, like a 32-foot building, something like
Okay,
that.
is there somewhere in this packet drawings of?
We provided
From the packet. The
That was-
building heights are in the links.
right.
There is notation, though, that's not been verified in terms of, this is preliminary information in terms of what those numbers are.
Right. So,
So
and then.
when you're measuring from the bottom of, let's say you're pulling into the
Correct.
garage, from there to the top of the third
Yep.
floor, that's what's giving you your 50 feet?
Correct.
I
And
mean,
then we
so-
also, the
Yeah,
grade
okay,
does
okay, thank
slope
you.
up on the downside and onto the garage as well. So
So
you
that's
really
the
only,
back
you
side?
only see that full depth at the garage door because the grade is sloping down.
Mhm.
Correct.
Yeah, I understand.
Do you have the view from the
Yeah.
front, too?
Yeah.
Yeah, Sheldon, can you confirm which elevation this is? Because.
Yeah, this is- this-
Is this north
This would be
facing?
No, this would be the east elevation with the garage
This side
doors.
is the part that's facing Bartlett, right?
Correct.
Right, and if you add up what you're seeing, unless you're saying that the grade's gonna be, if you add these numbers up on the side,
Okay.
12 plus 12 is 24, plus
Okay.
11 is 35,
Okay,
plus 6 is 41, not counting any inches.
Oh.
Oh,
Okay.
So that is getting really tall.
I mean, part of
Okay.
it, that's why I'm, that, we haven't verified it, we knew it was hitting a number.
yeah, thank you.
Yep,
So if that's 41, then you add another 11 feet down, so
At least.
on that
Like
side,
not-
yeah. I
9
mean, that
feet.
it's
You're
actually
taking, you're probably taking.
over
average grade.
50, yeah.
I mean, that's where the average grade calculation, the
Oh.
way Mound does it, and that's, we haven't verified it because we knew based on history that there was going to be some discussion about 50 feet or however many feet. So we didn't go through the effort to figure it all out in exact numbers because we knew that this would be a conversation.
Okay, further questions for the applicant?
For the condo building, could you comment on the trade-off of height and number of units?
Let's see, so, well, okay, so we're looking at 3 stories, and we thought that being, still giving us a little bit of density there, but still being modest enough in size, it's not, it's not 4 and 5 story. The footprint also is important relative to giving us reasonably sized units. We weren't looking to do 1 bedrooms. People are not really interested in condos that are 1 bedrooms, so the actual unit sizes are sized to be comfortable, and they're not overwhelming in size. And I think that speaks to kind of the interest for this development. We do have I believe a 10-foot ceiling on the units, so versus maybe a 9. So it's slightly higher than maybe some other comparable buildings, but still within the realm. It's not like cathedral ceilings, things like that. The flat roof was also an attempt to kind of keep the profile of the building down. And, the parapet probably could come down a little bit from a overall height, but we're still stacking up a unit. Most of the height is really just the units themselves and trusses in between
Do
the
you have an
floors.
illustration of, from the street, like if you're coming down 110 towards Mound? I mean, this is going to look really gigantic.
We do have I think the north elevation, maybe? That would be the look from 110. And we're, I don't know, 70, 80 feet back from the property line and probably another, I don't know, 20 or so feet back from the actual road or more.
In that black area at the top,
Yep.
is that just decorative, or is there,
Um,
what's,
It's a bit decorative, but it's also the area where the trusses are. We're also screening if we have any mechanical equipment on top. We want to keep, we want to be sensitive to that as well. It's probably another, I don't know, Wayne, what would the property line to the road be? We're probably closer to,
Yeah, 60 or 60 or 70 at the closest point, or actually to the 70, 60, at least 60 feet from the right-of-way, actually to the road, probably looking at another 20 feet, so at least 80
Right.
feet at the closest
how many
point.
units are in that
9
building?
9 units. Yep.
I'm concerned about it. I think what you've done with this really challenging site is really great. And I think you've made a lot of concessions from your initial concept presentation, which I really appreciate. I am a real stickler on this height issue, trying to keep
Sure.
Mound quaint still and not overpowering things. So that's my biggest concern. I
Okay.
think you've addressed a lot of the other challenges. But just from I don't know about the resident right next door. I mean, it's just gonna change the view for the neighbors to
Muncie, to the east.
to the east, yes. I would challenge you to see if you could go down a floor.
Oh, okay.
Really change
Well,
the
then-
entire
Yeah,
concept of your.
then that will probably be a problem for the Met Council, but
It's a balance.
we'll consider that.
Why would it be a problem for the Met Council?
Well, I think they had some density standards they were trying to.
Yeah,
they-
there's the density. I just said that to Sarah, like, how are we gonna do the density if that's the case for the Met Council? So we'll have to think about.
And that's based on zoning, is that right?
No, the
density?
comprehensive plan.
Oh,
This site was guided for medium density residential, so we could request an amendment to go to all low density residential, but we've already been told that even this project as, like, the density, not the project, going even the way that we're doing is still not quite what they would like, because we're supposed to be hitting a higher number of units per acre. Like, every project should come in at 5 or more units an acre. So this is always the kind of the balance that we have, trying to figure these
Right,
things out.
and of course, the Met Council is constantly pushing density,
Correct,
so that is always our challenge.
correct.
So,
And we have very
Trying to
few
keep-
sites. So-
Right.
And they are now on a, right, with this one, they were like, well, this project has to meet your minimum requirements of 5 units an acre, but it's gonna be 5 in the future, right? I need to look that part up.
Okay,
So those are the things that I'm not trying to say we can't do it, just we have to think about all of those things. And we can look into some more information about that that's one of the reasons for us suggesting we start today, find out what the conversation is so that we can have more information at the January meeting.
I think the only thing that maybe I'd add is that, we are, if there's a place to put something that's got a little bit of density up against a county road is probably that location. We're a long ways away from where the lake is. We're still within the trees. We still have a pretty reasonable setback from that road as it is. And so, I think that it fits in pretty well. We can see what we can do about, a little bit of reduction in height, but I think taking the floor off will be a problem, so.
can I just ask, for example, Minnetonka Flats, where did we end up with height on that?
They're in the 35 range.
Right, and
Yeah,
that's,
and they're in the downtown too.
okay,
Yeah,
I mean, that
Just-
height,
they're there.
that's tall.
They're close.
I
They were
knew
very
it was
careful.
gonna be very.
Seems tall.
Yep.
And Artesa, is that 50?
That one I'd have to look, that one is over 35.
No, way
four
over. I think it was
stories.
50, because I remember when
Yeah,
it went
I
through,
don't
we were
remember what
like,
the number
how did
is.
this happen?
I can't tell you, I can look it up, but I can't
Okay.
tell you at this exact moment. So we can have that information just for perspective.
Yeah, thank you.
We approved a 4-story building, I think, right?
Yeah, I think we did that versus doing a specific
I can't
height number,
remember.
because sometimes it's hard. Sometimes we say 4 stories, right? We may have at that time, because sometimes, when you first get a preliminary plat, you think it's gonna be this, and then there have to be adjustments, and then you don't wanna approve 50 feet and 2 inches and have them come at 50 feet and 3 inches, and then we have to go through a big thing. So, but I don't remember, we can look it up for next time.
Further questions for the applicant?
So the 2 questions I had before were about the impervious calculations.
Okay.
Were you using the lot, the single residential, and kind of what calculations were you using for that?
At this point, we were based on the information that we had at the time, from the progress that had been made on that was proposed there. We are looking at, or I guess you could say, doing a separate calculation for them, so they're sort of a standalone, and then having the rest of the project that is within the, let's say, the HOA would be calculated on its own as well.
Yeah, I guess it'd be good to know, just so that when they come to go build it, all of a sudden they can't build a house because
Oh,
you're taking too much space
no,
from
yeah,
them,
we've,
yeah?
let that happen.
And then the front deck, how are you gonna get back through the 50-foot
Well,
setback for the deck?
yeah, what's contemplated there is a previous paver. I think based on the comments that we've had from the DNR and the other criteria that we have that was shared with us, we'll look at adjusting. I think we still would like to have some aspect of a outdoor area that's closer to the lake than the side. So we're thinking that would be a discussion for, as we further develop the
Okay.
plans.
Will you be doing any kind of shoreline treatment to protect the shoreline? Any kind of vegetation along the shoreline? I mean, what is the plan along the shoreline?
We haven't talked about it in depth at this point, but we'll probably, those areas where we can, where we don't have, around the area where we have the dock, we'll have some protections there for sure. We still want to have some access to the lake, obviously. Everybody, wants to have that availability. So we'll do what we can to protect the shoreline, because obviously that's a benefit for everyone living there too.
Sheldon, can you talk a little bit about that trail with regards to the material?
yes,
With the slope
yep.
and the bluff, with respect,
Right.
I don't know that is a good
Well,
surface.
The intent is that the flat areas would be, a wood mulch, but then anything that's on the slope on the bluff would then be stairs, would be wood stairs. And, so that anything that has any appreciable slope, let's just say, which would be, a risk for some sort of runoff or the wood being washed out, those would be stairs or.
That just
a wood
feels
deck.
like it's a maintenance nightmare, respectfully.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, alternatively, we are very much interested in doing it as a pervious paving, so it also could be a gravel path or something like that, that would maybe be a little more stable. So that's the overall.
Have you had an opportunity to visit with the building official with regards to the sidewalks and layout and all of that?
I've reached out to him, I haven't heard back from
Okay.
him yet.
Because one of the questions I wrote down for myself is, I didn't, because it's not really, with respect, it's not my sandbox.
Sure.
But whether or not those sidewalks or trails, with those ADA standards and how those come into
Oh.
play with a private development, I
Sure.
just don't want to lose sight of that.
Yep, yeah, very good.
Further questions for the applicant? Okay, sir, if you have a question or an issue, then you can come forward, but not yet. Okay, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'd now like to open the public hearing for the comprehensive plan amendment and major subdivision preliminary plat. Those in the audience who would like to address the commission, please come in turn. Please be mindful of Rita's comments about trying to limit your comments to about 3 minutes. And if somebody has already brought up an issue, and we've heard it, please refrain from bringing it up again, because redundancy can take a lot of time. So, that said, who would like to step forward first? Would you, sir?
So I opened it, I think.
Okay. Please state your name and your address.
My name is Gal Peremislav, 6619 Bartlett Boulevard. So my house is to the east from the condo unit, and it's a 1.5 story house. So having 50 feet building next to it, I wonder how it will look like, whether it affect negatively the property. and also the traffic. So according to my understanding, it will be a driveway between my property on the east and the garage. So I cannot imagine myself whether it's a good thing or bad thing, so I'm asking you.
Well, your property was the one I was looking at when I brought up the comment of how it's going to affect the views of the neighbors to the east. So I can see where you would have some concern.
Okay? So should I be concerned?
Well, I mean, that's if you're comfortable having to the west of you a building that's,
Previously, I was
Three
offered
stories.
that my land will be purchased and will become part of this project. For me, it's ideal. Other solution is not ideal, but of course, we cannot force nobody to buy my land. So back to the developers, I'm ready, if they are. Currently, yes, I'm concerned.
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you. Who's next in the audience that would like to address the commission? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Beth Ranclub, and we live at 6680 County Road 110, and we also own 6690 110. So our properties are pretty much directly across from the 50-foot condo. So I'm very concerned about that. And then, you know, I mentioned, well, from the street side, it really only looked 30 feet, but I don't know how you get 3 stories with 10-foot ceilings, and then the mechanical stuff on top of that, and say the building's gonna look 30 feet. I don't know how that would be possible. And then he talked about, like, well, there'll be trees, and you know, I guess I'd like to see more of that. And then the traffic is just a huge concern. It's so much traffic now, and I know the planner said, well, the county road's built for that, but I don't even know how we'd get out of our driveway. You know, 76 units, and they probably all have 2 cars, and I just think it's a tremendous amount of traffic right in that area, and, you know, half a mile down the road, it backs up on that 4-way stop already. Those are my concerns.
Thank you, Beth.
Who's next? Okay, seeing none. Try one more time. Seeing none, I'd like then to close the public hearing. And Planning Commission will now discuss this project amongst ourselves. So, I'd like to open it up for comments, questions, perspectives. Fire away. Commissioner McEnany, I see you are,
Well, I think I've made my points. You know, I am concerned about height. I am concerned about a lot of activity going in and out of just a couple of entrances and exits. And I don't know how you can remedy that. Because 76 units, again, I think you've done a really great job with this really challenging property, but I am concerned about the density, even though I know that that's what's expected of us, but I am concerned about it.
other comments?
Well, I just want to say, I agree with you. I think the height's an issue. I think the traffic's an issue. We've just heard 2 individuals comment on that as well, and I'm trying to think how we can ease that, you know, and I don't know, is there a way, and this might be a question more for the developer, to get some 3D modeling and get that height more accurate, to see what that's gonna be, about how high above the tree line, what it's gonna look like from the street view. We just don't have that in the drawings and the documents tonight. And I would agree, I think that this is a tricky location. I think it's very aggressive with the amount of properties that are going in there. I also have a lot of concerns about the traffic. Hennepin County can tell me all they want that that road is designed to meet and accommodate that, but that's not accommodating the traffic flow. So I do think that your concerns are valid. Again, I don't know how we ease that in any way, but if we could do something with 3D drawings to see what that height would look like, I think that might be helpful to kind of ease some of that. I'm a little surprised we don't see it now, but like I said, we just don't have it, I think, in the drawings that were presented. I'm just trying to think of a way to ease all of your minds,
Like
and
an
that's one way.
abbreviated rendering.
Yeah, I don't even care if it's a Lego, just to show me the road and a Lego house on where that's gonna go.
Okay, other comments? Sir?
So I often like to think about this from an economic lens from the city also. Just retail strategy being part of my background, just a big driver of the success of local businesses is density. And I also note that we are on the low end of the guidance for the comp plan guidance of the density. And could you help me square that about where the council's mind is at? Where we're not wanting height this big, but would we want to push? Does the council want to push back against the density and have the density go lower? Is that what we're trying to do?
I mean, I think we'd have to talk to the entire council. I think we
Okay.
all have had our own thoughts on this.
Okay.
But I think that from a resident standpoint, I think we get a very big challenge of trying to keep Mound quaint and unique, but still, try to encourage business. And of course, it's our residents that keep businesses, flourishing. We're here to approve businesses coming in. That we can't guarantee the success of the businesses. That is up to the residents. So, yes, I think the city council has had a challenge. And we don't have a lot of developmental space available. But I think, the challenge is to try to keep things still appropriate looking from a driving standpoint as a quaint town still.
Yeah.
And that certainly drives, the height adds density, but I think we have been a bit opposed to anything over 3. It just looks so, it doesn't fit.
Would you be worried at all about having 3 Minnetrista 50 foots, and then a Mound
Of course.
lower? You would be worried about that?
Well,
Okay.
yes, but I have no control over
course.
Minnetrista. Minnetrista is, going to be growing leaps and bounds. We
Yeah.
have no control over that. So our job, that many of us have been elected to do, is to try to somehow maintain Mound's charm, but still try to, keep business wanting to come in.
Thanks, Les. The only last point that comes to mind is just remembering that we, as a metro area, as a state, are in a housing challenge, right? And we don't have a lot of redevelopment opportunities in Mound. So my only worry, I would love to, I completely like the desire for potentially lower heights. I would be worried if it were cutting units personally, but I wonder if there's any way.
And
we can-
tax dollars,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
I mean, overall, city tax dollars.
We just don't get a lot of opportunities to do redevelopments like this, and if we can house more families in the city, that's just something that's on my mind.
It's definitely a
Yeah,
fine line.
makes sense.
Personally, I'll go next. Are
Yeah.
you done?
Yeah,
Good. Okay. I'm worried about the impervious surface number and the amount of stormwater that would actually be treated. Halstead's Bay is an impaired bay, which means it's getting too much pollution, okay? And so are we then adding to that with this particular development without having holding ponds that can handle the runoff, not only from the development, but also from the, across the street that you mentioned. And so I think, I mean, my personal concern would be that we are being stewards of Lake Minnetonka and specifically of an impaired bay like Halstead's. So that's, you know, and stormwater runoff is the #1 pollutant. So, you know, how do we as a planning commission expect then developers to do their part now? Because you are taking out 55% of the trees, right? Is that what you said? They're keeping 45% of the trees?
47-ish, but
Okay.
it's off the top.
And then
But-
planting some more.
And planning.
They're planting another 20
Right,
trees,
right.
I think.
Right, but to look at that side by side, what are you removing? All of that, non-impervious or pervious, however we want to say that, surface, and replacing it with impervious surface. It's, you know, how are you balancing that? And I know you said 3 holding ponds, but I don't have any numbers, right? I don't know how much stormwater you're gonna be treating and how much it's gonna be handling. And so I think that's a really important factor that you need to come with, because I think as a city, we have to be concerned about that as we approve projects, because it's through us, the planning commission, that we expect developers to meet those requirements.
What are some of the types of things we can ask to improve this?
Well, we can ask for more planting areas. We can ask for larger stormwater holding ponds. We can ask for more buffer area down by the lake. We can ask for rain gardens around the developments, right, that take some of the drainage. There are things that we can request that the developer does to address that. It doesn't always have to be holding ponds. It just needs to be a process for making sure that we're protecting the lake. And that's why I joined the Planning Commission, was to have these discussions, right, with developers. And that, I think, is really important for this particular entity to keep in mind.
How much lake shoreline is there for this?
120 feet. It's
120?
120?
But it's a lot of drainage area.
Yeah, oh yeah, I know,
Yeah.
it's a big, huge slope there. Yeah.
On the flip side, it's probably all getting drained in right now.
Yeah, but it
Flowing
has
right
all
through
that,
there, yeah.
well, it has
Yeah.
that the pervious surface.
Yeah.
That is then, and the trees
Yep.
that are huge at actually sucking up that stormwater and protecting the lake, so.
So my challenge is kind of the balance between the Met Council and us. I mean, I think when you start looking at this type of plan, it seems like this is too big for what the Met Council wants us to be here. Like, if this was at Artesa, I think that condo building would look great. I think it looks nice I think it looks nicer than Artesa building, actually. But these people aren't gonna be walking to downtown either, right? You're gonna drive, and they're gonna drive on 110 and bring traffic through the 110. So I don't know what the opportunities are to try and balance that with what the Met Council wants for density.
Secede to Wright County, I guess, would be our only, our only chance.
Well, and I would add that having a taller building, right, is actually better for the lake, because you have less impervious surface, right, versus spreading out our buildings. If it was a 5-story condo building, right, and I'm just throwing that out,
One less building.
you put it all into one building, you have
grass,
more
trees
area.
To naturally soak up the.
Yeah, to handle the stormwater. And you can reduce your impervious surface, because if the parking especially is underneath, so.
Okay, further comments? Going once, twice. All right, please turn to page 17 of your agenda. In the bottom paragraph, you see a recommendation that reads, and I'll read part of it. Do you have something?
Yes, I do, if that's okay.
Go ahead.
Not to interrupt, but first, Sarah asked me to remind anybody who's leaving to sign in so we know who was here. So out on the podium, there's a place to sign in. Could I summarize what I heard before we do a recommendation? Would that be okay?
Sure.
This is what I heard as your issues and things that if we have things to address between, I don't make any promises, these will all get addressed. But what I wrote down were building height to get the Trista information, other projects in Mound, just so you had the numbers of like how tall buildings were. Conversation of, could it be set farther back, just to add a few feet? Traffic, access, and movement. We'll try and get more information. That's always a fun one to have a conversation about, but we will try. Stormwater, I'm not, other than getting some revised impervious surface, if there are updated information like the lot 1 that Mr. Baker said. There is a stormwater report in the website attachments if you didn't see that. So there is detail that exists, and so we'll have further conversations. I wrote down the Met Council density question, the ADA sidewalk trail, the 3D drawing, or some perspectives so you can understand that. The
Or
Lake Shore.
Legos.
What?
Or Legos.
Legos.
Anything
Or
that'll give
Legos.
you some height.
Lakeshore deck, the shoreline vegetation, Councilmember Wallace mentioned. Those are the things that I wrote down as if we could have information, you would all appreciate information between now and January. Did I miss anything? Because that's what I wrote down, and that's helpful for me to know what our charge is to try and help you. And then a list of conditions from all the other agencies so we can really figure out what's going on.
Okay, well, here's my list.
Yes, sir.
I'm sure that some of it's going to be redundant.
That's okay, but I'll add to mine.
I had, are there alternatives to holding ponds for water remediation, such as rain gardens and perhaps other types of resolution?
Okay.
Holding pond adequacy, I think there's concern about that with stormwater runoff. Concern if we cut density, what's the issue regarding economics locally?
Okay.
The higher the density, the more possibility of people utilizing goods and services here. I had concerns about adjacent property owners. What the vision of the new buildings would be as they step out their front door or their side door or their back door. Adjacent property owner concerns regarding traffic. Vision of buildings from across the road. I think there's a lot of interest in that. What's it going to look like? We know that the architect said that it's going to be somewhat, quote, buried, end quote. But what does it look like from the road or across the road? What will be done to protect the shoreline? Concern about trails and the surfaces on the trails. We already talked about the building height issue. I think that's a big issue. We talked about concern about additional traffic. Concern about dock allocation. I can see, quote, lots of discussion, end quote, amongst the new owners about who gets what and how are we going to squeeze more boats down on that shore. I can just tell you that right now. Plan for stormwater, we talked about the north side of the amenity building. We talked about that extending into the high water mark, whether this is pervious or not. think the architect would like it to be a little more dressed up than that, so I think that needs to be addressed. And we never talked about open space calculation.
You are correct. We did not have a conversation about it.
So those are the ones that I had.
Okay, awesome. Thank you very, very much. Nice to walk out of here with a list.
The last I'll add is, it's not not uncovered by the list you just mentioned, but I'm really interested in the interplay of height, density, and the various drivers of density requirements that are overlapping. In particular, let's say, what would happen if we wanted to honor the 35-foot height? What are some reasonable things that we could ask, and how would that impact the number of units? And I was tracking Met Council asks, I was tracking density for our own comp plan, and then also density requirements with respect to shoreline. And those are all too much for me to track for this, like, what would happen if we asked for 35 feet? So just helping get smart about what would change if we wanted to ask for a height reduction.
Anything else?
I do have one other thing that we talked about early on, which is the parking down by the,
Amenity building?
yeah, the amenity building. He talked about having maybe 10 to 15 people use the amenity building, but of course, you're not going to regulate that. So the only concern I would have is that they're going to be parking along the road there, if they can.
So adequacy of parking for the amenity building?
Yeah.
That would be your issue,
Yeah,
correct?
yes.
Okay?
Okay, thanks, Rita.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Rita.
Okay, once again then, please turn to page 17 of the agenda. The bottom paragraph, I'm going to paraphrase it. At this time, no staff recommendation is being provided given the complexity of development and the proposed flexibility being sought with the PUD. In addition, staff just received on November 24, 25, additional information. Staff, consultant agencies, utilities have not had sufficient time to review and provide updated comments. So staff, and I want to refresh everyone's memory. We do have an amendment to the agenda that is pretty substantive in terms of concerns. And so we would remand these to staff to review and be prepared to respond to. I'm kind of surprised that the authors weren't here tonight, but that's their prerogative. So, staff then recommends that we table consideration of the major subdivision preliminary plat and land use applications to the January 6th meeting of the Planning Commission.
I will make a motion to table planning case number 2512 to the January 6, 2026 Planning Commission meeting.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Unless you all want to hear a bunch of other stuff, which you're probably not interested in, that would be the end of our discussion of this project tonight. Thank you for coming.
Thank
for
you.
coming, everyone.
Thank you.
I'm just gonna turn the light back.
All right. You're warning us?
I know, how bright is it gonna be?
Adjust your eyes.
Oh.
Okay, you might recall, and I'm looking at the clock, I think our rules say we will, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming.
Very thoughtful. Thank you. I think our rules say that we will try to be done by 9 o'clock. Now, I'm aware that everyone has other issues in their life. But we did agree that we would be discussing exterior storage. And I think I asked everybody to take the ordinance home and to identify those areas that you'd like to address. So, that said, I think maybe the best way to do this is to go around the table and give everybody an opportunity to speak and to identify areas that they're concerned about or areas that they're satisfied with. And that said, let me start way down here, and I'll start with you.
Okay,
Please.
just, I interviewed a number of my neighbors recently, as I'm going to be reapplying for the position of planning commissioner, see what their concerns were. Overwhelmingly, they said, get the junk out of the yards.
Junk out of the yards.
Cars, storage overall. So, I guess with that in mind, they said, you know, they don't have to build better, bigger houses, but they said you go into other neighborhoods and there isn't a bunch of storage in yards. So they're saying no storage. So.
The individuals you spoke to, they said no storage?
Well, they said it just looks, they drive through Mound and it just looks kind of junky. So that's this end of the table.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's probably the whole table, but
Okay, anything else?
No. thank
Sam?
you.
I glanced at it, I did my homework, but I didn't have a full view of it. I'm gonna acknowledge that because
Okay.
the last 2 weeks went pretty quick. But I think this is, I know we talked a little bit about it at the last meeting. And I mean, it's just such a weird topic, but I think the bigger part for me comes down to the execution of if we can't enforce it. And so that's where I kind of get stuck. I agree there's parts where we have to fix it. I think it's weird to say absolutely no storage. I think it's finding the right appropriate recommendations or guidance on what is acceptable storage, but I still get hung up on the enforcement part, and it kind of blurs, I think, my judgment on this topic a little bit, but I agree it's a problem, and I think where we need to maybe provide more guidance is what is acceptable storage.
Okay, thank you. Jason?
Ready?
Yes, sir. Fire away.
All right. Sections E, F, G, and H on here all seem like they should go under section B, developed lots. Because when you're reading through here, you get to develop lots, that's the only place you can have any storage. For the recreation vehicles, motorized vehicles, watercraft, all of the stuff on there, you can't have an undeveloped lot. So it seems like it fits better under developed lots, like have subsections under there. We can talk later about like the maximum number of 6. One thing we don't talk about in here at all is we say they have to be operable. I don't know what operable means. Can I turn a car on? It can't, it's got no wheels, is it operable?
They
What's the
have-
definition?
My understanding is they have to move on their own accord on the property.
Should we put that in here somewhere?
Maybe,
Yeah.
yeah.
Good.
Define what
Definition.
operable means, because it's different for
And
other people.
if it starts, but it hasn't moved in 6 years, is it operable? You know, should you have some type of requirement of, it has to move every so often, they can't just be sitting on blocks, but I can turn it on and it works? We talked about last time that we don't really have a definition of if it's on pervious or impervious surface. Like if it's a class 5 driveway, it's treated the same as parking on grass, which seems we should address that differently. I don't know what this whole section H is. Storage of special mobile equipment. I don't know what special mobile equipment is. That seems like we can just get rid of that whole section. I don't even know what would fall under that.
Or explain it.
Or
Right.
explain if it's something.
Again, it's
yeah.
the guidance and the definition.
Would that be like a bobcat, for example?
Or a trailer, or,
I don't know. Is it like all other?
Could it be a
If it doesn't fall into the rest of the
Lawnmower?
stuff?
lawnmower, riding lawnmower? I don't know.
Well,
Special.
we're at a disadvantage because the field officer isn't here tonight. I think he was called to the fire department once again.
Oh, no.
The other part
Bring it to
was
the next one.
for lakeshore lots, we call out storage meets required setbacks and have no significant impact on lake views to adjacent lakeshore properties. I don't know what significant impact is. Like, if I have to look over and I see it, is it an impact to my view? I don't know. And normally we say that you don't have a right to the view to the lake. So.
Through someone else's lot.
Right. And then also, some of the things on here with 5 feet from the property line, I think that has to do then with whether it's a grass or is it paved, or like class 5. Like if my class 5 goes right up to the property line, that's treated the same as if it's on grass. So I think it goes back to that for
Is there,
setbacks.
where do members feel about hard versus soft?
Well, I don't think we need to ask people to add impervious surfaces,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
But maybe it's clarifying a designated area, right? Your whole yard can't be a storage spot, right? I mean, maybe it's a,
That's the hard part, is the different types of lots.
I don't know. I mean, you don't want to add impervious surfaces.
Right.
So how do
But
you
you want to
balance?
protect it, you know, I mean, and I think the concern is
Is it screened?
junk that's leaking fluids that's gonna get in the, you know, so maybe it's speaking to that and providing that,
Oh,
that clarity, that it's,
right.
you know.
On the
like,
other
the
hand,
surface doesn't matter, what matters is what's going onto the surface.
impervious surface is highly desirable for a lot of uses. You know, parking a
Yeah.
boat, for example.
Right, right.
So I think we need to keep that in mind.
Okay.
And then the only other one I had on here was under the developed lots, where it lists like recreational vehicles, motorized vehicles, it says objects screened by tarp or other screening devices. I would take that out. Like,
Well-
I don't want something with a tarp over it. That seems like that is exactly what we're trying to get rid of.
And we have a lot of that.
Yes.
Oh, by the way,
Right.
I have one across the street from me.
Yeah.
Is that like a paper garage, is what I've heard is?
No, well, it's objects screened by
If they're
tarp.
screened.
Oh, so it's not even any sort of structure, it's just
Objects
covered?
screened by tarp
Okay.
or any other screening device. I don't know what we're trying to put into
Okay.
that.
So maybe that's not a paper garage, quote unquote.
I don't know if that's what it's meant to be or not. We really don't even have, now you're
I thought
saying
it was
that,
just
I don't even know if we
covering
have anything
something
in
with a
here
tarp.
for that type of,
That type
is
of,
that an accessory building? What is that? If you have one of those portable garages, what is that, is that considered a shed? You know-
Those, we have membrane structures. Is that what you're talking about?
Membrane
I-
structure.
we're talking about,
That would be a membrane structure in your code, yes.
we're talking about a frame with a tarp over the top.
That's a-
Membrane
That's a
structure.
membrane structure, you actually are one of the few cities that actually have specific regulations about that.
So that's not listed at all in here in exterior storage, right? That's somewhere else then?
In accessory structures, it's in
Okay.
194.
So that's not
But
what
it's
this is
different than a
referring to.
tarp,
Okay.
though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it says
temporary-
tarp or other screening device.
Yeah, well, they might be talking about they, us, whomever, like screening. You know, if you're fenced and nobody can see it, that might be, but I think if I'm hearing you, what you're moving towards is that you don't think having a tarp over it is appropriate screening, maybe that needs to come out.
Correct, and if I throw a huge 30-foot tarp over
Yeah.
16 things,
Yeah.
they count it as one in here? That's the way I read it. Yeah,
A mass
Right.
of stuff.
I only have
Right.
one thing, it's just a
Right.
really big tarp. That's it for me.
Okay.
So I missed the last meeting and I missed the homework. Just from a procedural question, are we planning on trying to make a decision on this in the next
No.
meeting? No?
No, we're taking the feedback that we're hearing
Okay.
This is
tonight.
just feedback to staff,
To review it.
and then they take it
We're
from there.
gonna start,
And private feedback would not be welcome because we're in a public forum?
If you look at it and provide feedback directly just to Sarah.
Okay.
We can still take it.
Okay.
yes.
So then I'll go ahead and take that feedback
Just fine.
If
offline.
I may, Mr. Good, in the definition of the code is special mobile equipment, in the definition section up on the screen. That went back to
Oh.
Mr. Baker.
What does it say?
When you
Yeah.
don't know, sometimes you have to look in 129.2 where the definitions are.
Okay.
Can you make
And
that
I can
bigger?
read-
Yeah, read
I can,
it.
but it
Yeah.
loses, you can't read it all if I
Oh.
do that. So I will do it, but then we'll have to just zoom back and forth,
That's better.
so. When you get to the end of the sentence, I can move it over. There's no in between, I've tried.
Ditch
Do you,
digging,
do you want to
moving
read
dollies,
it? Do
pump
you want to
Again.
just read it? I mean, it's,
well
It's like
drilling,
equipment.
Do you want
Yeah.
me to read it, or?
asphalt
Sure.
spreaders.
I would like you to read it.
All right, see, it says, every vehicle not designed or used primarily for the transportation of persons or property and only incidentally operated or moved over a highway, including, oopsie, hit that something. Sorry, was trying to get to the thing. Including but not limited to ditch digging equipment, moving dollies, pump hoists, other well drilling equipment, street sweeping vehicles, other machinery such as asphalt spreaders, bituminous mixers, yes, construction stuff, bucket loaders, tractors other than truck tractors, ditchers, leveling graders, finishing machines, motor graders, road rollers. I knew there was gonna be a word I don't even know.
Scarifiers.
Scarifiers. I don't even know. Earth moving equipment.
Are they trying
That
to
could be
like,
any number of things.
No, this
Scarifiers.
was written in
Construction
1920.
Yeah.
Just considering it's not.
I don't even know what half those things are.
So if we go back to where it's being used, the exterior storage of those things we just read
Can't have.
shall be prohibited.
Yeah.
Exclusive if they're actually having a building permit. So if you're getting your house built and you need
Oh.
something to dig,
Oh,
you can have it
okay.
on there, but
Gotcha.
otherwise
Right.
you permanently can't have construction equipment
Gotcha.
ish
Okay,
on your residentially zoned property.
okay, thank you.
Why don't we call it that?
Makes sense.
Construction.
I don't know.
So that would go along with, so if we indented E, F, G, and H
Yeah.
under the developed lots,
Yeah, I
then
hear what
everything
you're
else
saying.
after that is
Consolidate
prohibited.
that.
Reorganization
Yeah.
will be
Yeah.
beneficial too.
Okay, moving on.
Did you want,
You're-
do you want some more comments or no?
He's done.
Okay.
You're-
Oh,
you're
he's,
up.
I'm up, okay. So, a couple of notes is, I think as a city, we need to work with the police department on enforcement, and we need to have specific guidelines for that. Like, to decide, do you get one warning and then 30 days to rectify it? And then in 30 days, if it's not rectified, you get a ticket, right? And you make it significant enough that it makes people change. And I think that's kind of the biggest deal, is if you just keep issuing warnings or talking to people and trying to get them to do it, then they know inherently you're not going to do anything. And I can attest that for 13 years, I've lived off of Noble Lane, and nothing has changed during that time, even despite complaints. So I think that's huge. I think there needs to be a smaller limit to the number of, so on the developed, when it talks about trailers, motorized vehicles, I was looking at some other cities that look at 3 as being the maximum when it comes to some of these things, like having a water, and I was thinking about it in terms of, okay, you have a boat, you have an ice house, you have a jet ski, right? I mean, that's 3
So can I-
items, and they're not always there
Should I
at the
do a
same time.
counterpoint to that?
Sure,
Because what's in here is, for every 1,500 square feet, you get one.
yeah,
So if you have a 10-acre lot, you get 3. That's where that number came in there. So if you only have a small 50-foot wide lot, 40,
Yeah.
100 feet deep,
Yeah.
you wouldn't get 6. That's
Yeah.
where you got to kind of play with the numbers, and we don't know what the right
Okay.
number is.
yeah, so.
But we
and-
know that people exceed that.
So
Yes,
1,500 square feet is what, give me, what is that, 10?
30 by 50,
30 by 50, is that, what's our normal lot size?
5,000.
6,000 is the
is
minimum for
is
R1B
minimum.
and R2.
So that's 4.
6,000 is minimum, and so that's 4.
Gives them 4.
So maybe that number needs to go up. So maybe it's by 1,500 square feet. Maybe that's too small.
Yeah.
So a normal lot, you can have 4 things. And that's 6,000 square feet. Well, what about the little larger lots?
Right, then you can go up to 6 if it's.
You know, I get it if it's like acres and stuff, and you've got the backwoods you can put stuff on, but people aren't complaining about people storing in the backwoods, right? They're complaining about people storing it on a normal lot size. And then the setback of 5 feet from the property line is really small. What's our setback for sheds?
Depending on location, if it's in the backyard, 4 and 4,
Oh, it's 4.
yeah,
Okay,
except on a lakeshore lot.
okay.
And if it's between
maybe,
the front and the back, then it's 6.
and maybe it's a limitation that you can't store in the front yard.
I think the challenge too is we don't have clean lots either. I mean, there's parts where.
That's true.
They're all funky,
Yeah.
you know, so I think that's hard to kind of say, nothing can ever be in, you know, on the side or in the front, because for some of these houses, that might be the only spot they got,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah,
You know?
I mean, the
You're right.
definition, so yeah, that is an issue. There are people that have multiple sheds, temporary sheds, maybe it's a greenhouse or a temporary garage shed or whatever. Do we call that out here?
That's limited in 129-194 in terms of the number that you can have for total.
Yeah,
Accessory sheds, I think is exempt out of that, but it normally gets in with your hardcover, but that's certainly something we can look at.
but some of them are like movable, right? And to be clear on that, like Spring Park says 3 recreational vehicles and they all have to be on hard surfaces. So if you're storing a boat, if you're storing a ice house, you know, they need to be on hard surfaces and having a designated spot like that makes it cleaner, I think, from a storage standpoint. So I guess what I would look at, and there was, I would think it was St. Bonifacius I was reading, anything that makes it look junky, you know, like it had a thing, like the whole purpose of this is not to deteriorate property values.
Yeah.
Right? And so doing it in a way, I don't think people are going to complain about something unless it looks junky, right?
You know, that's
So
really subjective. too.
it's-
We've had,
to people.
We've had people who we've issued citations to, you know, and they come up and speak on their behalf, and they claim they've been working for a month trying to get things cleaned up, and in their mind, it looks fantastic. So I think if we aren't really specific, you know,
Yeah.
it's very subjective on what
Yeah,
people
right.
consider acceptable and
Yeah.
not acceptable.
So maybe that's just fluff language and maybe not enough of a directive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's a good way to put it.
So maybe it's just saying, hey, you know, if you're gonna have your RV, if you're gonna have your ice house, that needs to be in a designated area, on a designated hard surface or driveway or,
Well, it varies by house.
By lot.
It varies by driveway layout. It's hard to regulate that, I think.
What is our authority to enforce?
Say again?
What is our authority to enforce?
We don't have any.
We don't have any.
That's the issue.
so what do you find when people come up and talk
What do we
about a
have to do to get the
citation?
authority?
Well,
Do
that's,
Well, it's,
that's another discussion that I think the council's working on.
we are working on that.
Yeah. What's the toolbox, what the enforcement is.
Part
what's
of it
the-
is we're a statutory B city.
right.
Yeah.
We can't impose fines.
Yeah.
We have to go
Can't
through
enforce it.
legal and then do a civic, you know, if we want to impose deep pain to our problem, you would do a civic, you know, you'd go to court civically. Or you can get, you know, OPD involved, but that's not easy either. You know, we're kind of in a little bit of a problem where it's almost like the perpetrators succeed, but the people complaining don't. You know,
Yeah.
we're in sort of that.
It is, totally.
And it's really frustrating, and
Yeah.
it's like they're given all the chances in the universe, no
Yeah.
matter how many complaints we
Yeah.
get. So that is something that we talk a lot about, and they talk about that in the police commission meetings, and
And do we know, like, how other cities are dealing with some of this? I mean, are they having similar
Well,
problems?
some other
or-
cities have statutory authority.
yeah,
Yeah.
statutory A, you know, and Trista statutory A. So it's,
Okay.
it all is, there are a lot of designations within what kind of city you're regulated as.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
But I think the bottom line is that I think we're trying to approach it multi-pronged. You know, whatever the workflow is, better communication, better, quicker, faster, you know, what's the process to get from A to B
Yeah.
to C? You know, better enforcement, better follow-up, quicker follow-up, and some of it also is gonna come down to staffing as well.
yeah.
And cooperation between departments, between inspections, PD, our field officer, you know, because we all assist in that capacity.
Yeah,
And,
right.
you know, so, and there is no cut and dried process that works the best. Everybody has a little different approach, and I think every property has a little bit different approach, but it's staying on top of it, and, you know, I think we're all trying to work cooperatively, and one is looking at just the exterior storage, what we have, that's just one piece of it. The enforcement, the staff time, you know,
Yeah.
because we are complaint-based, the follow-up, communication, I think all those things are being looked at.
Yeah.
So just to summarize,
Yeah.
what I would recommend is, I would recommend that we reevaluate the number per square foot, and that on a standard, and to limit it, that on a standard city lot, the maximum would be 3. And I don't know if our average city lot is 6,000, or if that's just our minimum, right? But I would say on an average city lot, that you could only have 3.
Because you could do both, right? You could have the per square foot with a global maximum, so
That's
that
what it's
small.
Yeah,
That's what we have
that's
now.
kind of how it is written right now, but I would also clarify what counts to that, right? Because you could have a trailer piled up with stuff, right? Junk. Is that one item? Or is that, do you count all the junk that's piled up on it? So, like, for instance, if it's a boat on a trailer,
That's
I would
one.
say that's one,
Yeah.
right? If it's a trailer with a topper with a bunch of other junk on top of it,
And a tarp on top of that.
and then a tarp on top of that, then no, that's not just one. That's a heap of junk, you know? So it's being very clear on that, and also a designated area for that. Your entire yard is not, you can't use 100% of your yard.
Well, some homes, that's all they've got, you know, some homes, you have a driveway that barely fits that car. So,
True.
True,
you know, and we just have so many
True.
unusual,
Well, and I think that the field officers can kind of make that call, but if you had a designated area where
Right.
you were parking or putting all of this material, I think that's really the key,
Yeah.
right? If you had that designated area. So those would be my comments, as well
Okay.
as enforcement, yeah.
Kath?
well, I am in 100% agreement with Samantha. And what I would like to see is, you know, as I mentioned at our last meeting, we're really talking about trying to budget for whether it be a full-time or part-time that designates 100% of that time to compliance and to actually going out and, you know, we are a complaint-based city, but the frustration is they can complain 10, 15 times and nothing changes. And we're all frustrated with that, all of us. Council, residents, you know, it's just really, really frustrating. So our goal for 2026 is to really see if we can get, you know, Andy does such a great job with the limited amount of time he has, but he really doesn't have probably the right amount of time that we need to have a successful compliant officer getting us results. So what I would like to see is if we can get that person in place, I'd like to take, a 6-9 month period and see what does get cleaned up. I mean, some of this we've allowed to go on for so long. And I'd be willing to guess, we all see the same properties. We all know what we're talking about, which properties those are. And if you've got 5% of the properties that are really a problem, if we can get those cleaned up, I'd like to see what this looks like going forward with actual enforcement. And maybe it is going down to 3 per 1,500 square feet. I don't know what it is, but I have a hard time making a decision on that because nothing's enforced.
Right,
If-
right.
So if we had actual true full-time enforcement within that job, whether it's half-time,
Well,
part-time.
that person could help to recommend a change to the ordinance too, to clarify. Because if they're struggling to enforce because of language here, that
Of
would be
course,
something.
that is part of it.
Yeah,
But
right.
I think, Sarah, you've been here for so many years, you've been through so much of this. Don't you think that if we had somebody who can donate or devote 100% of their time to all the complaints that we get in a day, and maybe we need to add that to be a full-time person? We don't know because we just haven't, this hasn't been a priority, and I think we all know that. But for us, it is a huge priority because it's just a challenge. Year after year after year, nothing changes.
So if you were gonna put a number on it, what percent would you say is because we don't have the right regulatory framework, and what percent is because we don't have the right compliance enforcement? Is it 50/50?
For me, it could be 50/50. I don't know because there's so
It's understanding.
few cases that you actually see a result.
Got it.
So, I think it's hard to dedicate a lot of time on this till we start seeing some results so we can actually make some informed decisions based on that. And again, I am, as I mentioned at the last meeting, I am probably a little more forgiving with this just because we have so many bizarre lots and we are a lakefront community, but I do agree that we could clean things up significantly and still allow most people to have their stuff where they can fit it. Again, it's all about enforcement for me, and across the board with everything with Mound, enforcement. And OPD many times, and we talk about this a lot too. Again, if the language isn't right, there's nothing they can do because they're gonna
Right.
get harassed or they're gonna
Right.
get called out. So
Right.
it's just such a frustrating uphill battle, with all of this. But, I appreciate that everybody's talking about this because this all goes into, I think, reinforcing the fact that we are on the right track and just knowing that we need to get more hands-on with compliance.
I mean, I would struggle to have a full-time person enforcing it because I'm sure Sarah's overwhelmed with all of her jobs.
Well, there's a
and-
lot of
yeah.
budget things you have to,
Yeah,
there's,
yeah.
it's a big picture, full-time, your benefits, and we're dealing with budget, but
Yeah.
I think we're gonna do the best we can within our budget to try to tackle this problem, and at that point, I think hopefully we're gonna start seeing a lot of these issues go away. But that's a hefty hope.
Well, let's hope you're right.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, anything else, Kath,
Um,
from this standpoint?
You mean,
From
for this topic?
the exterior storage standpoint?
No.
Okay. Anything else from anyone else on the commission regarding exterior storage?
Is it a different process to address the issue if it's a visible environmental hazard? Or is it still default to complaint-based? So if there's a car and it's leaking a bunch of stuff and it's been sitting there for 3 years or however long, I mean, does someone still have to complain and say this car is leaking antifreeze? Or can the city intervene because it's a potential hazard to the environment?
Well, we have a building in in Mound that has all of the above that you just
Well,
mentioned.
that's what I was thinking about too, the building that has
And
it,
you
but
know, nothing has happened. It's something
Okay.
absolutely every single day, somebody is calling Jesse and saying, what is being done about this? You know, it's just ongoing. So yes, that's a great question.
Yeah.
Which building is it?
it was the old car maintenance place, wasn't it, that didn't we have, isn't it the one
I was gonna say,
by
yeah.
Surfside? It used to be a
U-Haul.
car
Across
repair
the street.
The old
facility.
Wayne
Yeah,
66.
that's the one that you're talking about that leaves.
Yeah.
The old
right?
U-Haul.
Yeah, yeah, the old U-Haul Dwayne 66, and, you know, that's been in ownership now, going on, it'll be 3 years, maybe 4 years this December. I think that was purchased, and we have regular conversations about that building and the owner, and what the owner plans to do, and how we can get things sped up, but you can talk to that.
But
There's
does-
nothing we can do to comply something to speed things up, even with complaints.
So MPCA, like Minnesota Pollution Control, can't.
Well, I don't know
can't
if
get
they've, I don't
involved?
know if they've been involved yet, but I'm sure once they do,
mean-
who knows what's underneath that building? There's probably barrels and barrels of,
I mean,
You
they
know.
might be a phone call, you know, if
Well,
you want
Probably an
action.
underground storage tank.
yeah, I'm sure.
Okay, anything else? Hearing none, let us move on. We have city council liaison. Kath, anything for us?
Well, just so you know, because you were asking about this a couple meetings ago, so for the interviews, for the commissions, this is gonna happen, I'm not sure, by the end of the day, it was gonna be a workshop at maybe 4:30 or 5 for sure, but we were hoping to get 4:30, because we've got 6 applicants, so we can have 15 minutes per applicant, and this is for all parks, planning, and docks. But I don't think they were able to get a hold of everybody to find out if that will be 4:30 or 5. But it will be next Tuesday, and it's an open meeting. So obviously, anybody who wants to be there can be there. And then I think at the end of the agenda is when we'll vote on who will be nominated. I know you had all had questions about that, so if that helps anybody, and good luck to you.
I'm studying up.
Just to clarify, however, we have not noticed for planning commission list of possible quorum for Tuesday's meeting.
Okay, well,
'Cause
this
council's
is
doing the
why
interviews.
I talked to Jesse, or
Yeah.
emailed Jesse this morning, because I said, I know planning commission is interested in the procedure of this. So if you want to talk to that,
You want me to visit with Jesse in the morning?
yeah, maybe you
Yeah.
should. I mean, if
Yeah.
a number of planning commission is planning on being there, then we'll have to put out a notice that,
Yeah.
so.
Oh,
Maybe-
I will visit with Jesse,
Yeah.
Jesse in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the only other thing I want to mention is tomorrow is Noah's last day, our finance director, and he's just one of those hard, tireless workers who has been with us for, I think, 11 or 12 years, and he's just a gem. So he's really going to be missed, and he's really moving up in his career move. So this is a really great career move for him, but we're going to really miss him. He's been just awesome.
Have you replaced them?
Not yet.
Not
He just
yet.
put in his
Oh,
resignation.
okay.
And then, I guess, Merry Christmas to everybody.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, that too.
Okay, Sarah.
Thank you, Ms. McEnany. I will circle back with Jesse in the morning on that. So in the event that we have to put out a notice for a possible quorum if members want to attend.
And that might go with parks too, and I don't,
yeah, it'd be
I
the
don't
same.
think that anybody, I think there were 2 open spots on docks. But I don't think there were any applicants for docks. I mean, other than the people who want to be revamping their,
Yeah, we'll visit generically about all 3 boards.
yeah, I mean,
So-
because this is new, I'm curious too about the procedure and making sure it's accurate information for everybody, so.
Yep. Thank you for anybody who was at tree lighting a couple weeks ago. It was lovely. Downtown just looked absolutely stunning. The group did a great job. Public Works Parks did a great job. It was great to see everybody out there. It was lovely. That really has become quite a beautiful, just a spectacular event. And driving home when you see that, it's lovely. The other thing members may recall at our concurrent meeting last, I think, February, and also was recently talked about, I think, at the council workshop a couple of meetings ago. The council is going to be looking at skinnying up the planning commission, going from 9 to 7, because through attrition, and that includes the council liaison. And so that ordinance is going to be on next Tuesday's agenda as well. And then clarifying, the role of the liaison, that they can vote and discuss and all that. So that is moving forward as well. Other than that, happy holidays. Hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving. Thank you for your kind consideration for all the discussion this evening as well.
Never a meeting goes by that you don't learn just a ton. You guys all have so much knowledge.
Motion to adjourn. Second.
We have a motion to adjourn, we have a second, we have discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And